Happy New Year, Indie Warriors! I hope you had a happy and safely indulgent holiday season with no drama and got every indie game you wanted for Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, etc. It's rare of me to start off any video by talking about a AAA game, but it strikes me that part of why many of us are here is because the AAA gaming industry is pretty ripe for drama, cautionary tales, and occasional insights into how larger industry trends manage to bleed their way into the indie scene. I want to talk about one of these trends today, and do so by pointing your attention to The Last of Us. Upon the original game's release in 2013, it instantly became a major contender for my favorite game of all time, and for good reason. Naughty Dog's developers are almost objectively masters of their craft and created a post-apocalyptic masterpiece that so excelled in its ability to make you feel and care for its characters that the level of saturation in that genre at the time would be swiftly forgotten. The Last of Us remains a top 5 title for me to this day, and a testament to what a major studio can accomplish when creativity is allowed to thrive. But even I gave a little head tilt, like my dog encountering her reflection, when I began to hear rumors that The Last of Us, at the time a game not even a decade old, was getting a ground-up remake. I understand and even appreciate when games are remade, but it depends what we're talking about. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Resident Evil. Remaking those just made sense. They're all well-loved, older titles with outdated visuals, clunky controls, and some antiquated design that's ripe for a modern overhaul. When done well, these remakes allow fans to appreciate classic titles they love in a fundamentally new way, while making them more accessible for modern audiences and sometimes renewing interest in their franchises. It's a genuine win-win. But when the announcement finally came in June of 2022 that The Last of Us was indeed getting a full remake and a change of title into The Last of Us Part 1, I was skeptical. Not only did The Last of Us not release that long ago by generational standards, but it was already remastered on the PlayStation 4 with better performance and an extra coat of visual polish. I know, because it made for the second time that I bought The Last of Us at full price. And here they are telling me that no, now we really have the definitive version of The Last of Us and you should totally give us $70 to play it. Trust me, bro. And you know what? I'm weak. I'm a weak man, and I purchased the now third release of the same game on the third platform it's released on at the full launch price. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was absolutely gorgeous, had more immersive haptics and numerous quality of life features added. It was one of my favorite games of all time, but made better, and I have no problem admitting how completely worth it buying The Last of Us Part 1 felt. But I'm not sure that its success set the most amazing precedent. As an example, let's look at a much smaller game which just so happens to have originally released around the same time The Last of Us did. I'm talking about Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, a 2013 release that told an emotional story of two brothers making their way through a fantastical land, while the player controlled each brother simultaneously with both analog sticks, what the developer described at the time as co-op play in single-player mode. Brothers was a lovely, resonant tale whose unique gameplay added so much to its overall concept, and honestly still looks and plays pretty well today. So 2024's Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons remake took me from a curious head tilt to genuine confusion. It looks pretty good, I must say, but released with a notable number of bugs and performance issues while bafflingly adding a two-player mode that, well, seems to fundamentally mistake a core appeal of the original. As Old Gamer Joe noted in his preview of the Brothers remake a few months ago, this is a title with clever but relatively uncomplicated puzzles that are made much more engaging by the player's need to control both brothers at once. And while I'm always down for a co-op mode when that would enhance a game, this seems like the exact case for a co-op mode having actively detracted from the game's appeal, no doubt leaving more than a few folks trying the remake with a partner and perhaps wondering what the big deal was. My point is not to hate on the Brothers remake, because it does look very good and feel great to play, all else aside. And it's certainly better off than some other remakes and remasters that only serve to show players how little their nostalgia is respected. Games like the GTA trilogy, Prototype 2, or 13. But ultimately, I would have been okay without it. But this sort of thing is becoming more and more frequent. Horizon Zero Dawn recently had a 2024 remaster of the original 2017 game. The Talos Principle remastered is coming in 2025, about a decade after the original. And even Braid, a 2D puzzle platformer from 2008, got a remaster that didn't really look all that different, but had some extra content and developer commentary, which is cool, I guess. I suppose I get that re-releases of games from 1 or 2 generations ago can be an efficient way to milk some nostalgia out of gamers' wallets and help the games find new audiences. In some cases, they may even be to gauge interest in a new installment of a well-loved series, or give up-and-coming developers a lower-stakes project to learn the ins and outs of a game engine. All of that stuff is great. But as we all know, the more popular a trend becomes, the more that publishers tend to feel they can get away with. If you spent $70 on 2024's Until Dawn remake, then booted up your PS5 on launch day and expected a new and improved version of your favorite cinematic narrative horror game, you might have instead been put off by some egregious performance problems and several crashes, as well as a feeling of general familiarity that didn't smell worth the 70 smackaroos. But since Sony's archaic refund system remains little more than them gently telling you to shove it, you would be hardly faulted for feeling a bit peeved. Similarly, anybody who bought the remastered GTA trilogy may have been a little put off by the numerous bugs, terrible performance, and arguably the most bizarrely awful rain effects of any video game ever made. If that person didn't do their research, that nostalgia would be capitalized on, and the buyer would be left with a worse version of a game they loved, or used to love. Also, publishers are getting really cocky about how much they're charging for these remakes. $70 for a ground-up remake of The Last of Us isn't totally wild, but it's certainly bold, and again, perhaps sets a precedent we don't want to be starting. Now, just a few months ago, THQ Nordic gave us a remaster of Epic Mickey, a Wii game that was less loved and perhaps more gently liked, and is charging $60 for the privilege. Which, hey, in truth, that doesn't bother me a whole lot because nobody is forcing me to buy it. I firmly believe if a price is too high, the market will react accordingly. So as long as the quality is high enough, then gamers can surely decide for themselves if they think it's worth it. Like, are people really buying the Luigi's Mansion 2 remaster and Donkey Kong Country Returns HD for $60 each? I don't know, that doesn't sound very worth it, but maybe for some it is. So, in general, I say, who cares? But on the other hand, I do worry that if publishers are feeling out interest in old franchises by releasing way overpriced remasters of them, they may be shooting themselves in the foot and their diehard fans in the wallet. So, ultimately, why do we get so many remasters and reboots? Sometimes it's truly the desire to give gamers the most definitive edition of a game they love. Sometimes it's to cash in on nostalgia in the cheapest way possible and hope nobody catches all the cut corners. And sometimes it's charging exorbitant prices to bring back a game nobody hugely cared about and see if it makes enough to be worth it. There's so much variety in the value and execution of remasters and remakes out there that it's just like any other game. Do your research, watch some gameplay, and don't give publishers an interest-free loan by pre-ordering a remaster that may have been developed by some interns on their lunch break. Let us know your favorite and least favorite remakes and remasters of recent years in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and want to support what we do, give us a like and subscribe and consider joining our Patreon, where a membership can get you cool perks like early access to upcoming videos and an invite into our wholesome Discord community. Thanks as always for watching, and have an easy and indieful new year. Indieful's a word, right?